The crystalline walls of the royal palace reflected King Azeron's grief in countless fragmented images. He stood at the massive viewing window of his private chamber, his 7-foot frame slightly hunched, a posture unbecoming of Zenorian royalty. His normally luminescent blue skin had dulled to a pale gray, and the crown of crystal spikes adorning his head drooped slightly, physical manifestations of his deepening sorrow. For one full cycle 3 Earth years, the king had mourned. Each day, he visited the memorial garden where a statue of Princess Lyria stood among the bioluminescent flowers she once loved. Each night, he retreated to his chambers to watch recordings of her growing up, refusing meals and turning away visitors. "Your Majesty," came a gentle voice from the doorway. "The High Council awaits your presence." King Azeron did not turn. "Tell them I am indisposed, Vex." Royal Advisor Vex stepped further into the room, his slender form casting a long shadow across the polished floor. Unlike the king, Vex's green skin still glowed with health, though concern had etched lines around his 4 violet eyes. "With respect, Your Majesty, you have been indisposed for 14 rotations. The Krith delegation threatens to leave if their trade agreement is not addressed by the Crown directly." Let them leave." The king waved a 6-fingered hand dismissively. "What does trade matter now?" Vex approached carefully, standing beside his king at the window. Beyond the palace walls, the capital city of Cristelis spread out in geometric perfection, spires and domes of varying colors reaching toward the 3 moons visible in the daytime sky. "Your daughter would not wish to see the kingdom she was. To inherit fall into disarray," Vex said softly. At the mention of Lyria, Azeron's shoulders stiffened. "Do not use her memory to manipulate me, old friend." "Not today," Vex lowered his gaze. "The annual remembrance ceremony is in 3 days. The people expect you to lead it. Find someone else." "There is no one else, Your Majesty. You are the king." "I am a father first," Azeron snapped, turning finally to face his advisor. His eyes, normally a bright amber, had faded to a dull brown. A father who failed to protect his child. The silence that followed was heavy with unspoken grief. Vex had served the royal family since before Lyria's birth. He had watched her grow from a curious child into the capable young princess who had volunteered to lead the diplomatic mission to the newly discovered Terran system. A mission from which she never returned. "The accident was not your doing," Vex said carefully. "The asteroid field was unpredicted. Even our best sensors, our best was not good enough," Azeron interrupted. He picked up a small crystal from his desk, a communication device containing the last message Lyria had sent. He had watched it so many times he could recite it word for word. In the recording, Lyria's face shimmered with excitement. "Father, the humans are fascinating. Their technology is primitive compared to ours, but they compensate with remarkable creativity. I believe an alliance could benefit both our species. We are proceeding to their orbital station for the next phase of talks. I will contact you again after," and then nothing, just static. The Zenorian fleet had found debris from her ships scattered across half a parsec of space. No survivors. "The Zenith faction grows stronger daily," Vex said, changing tactics. "Your nephew makes no secret of his ambition for the throne. Without your leadership, many begin to wonder if perhaps the succession should pass to him." This, at least, sparked something in the king's eyes, a flash of anger. Zenith has neither the temperament nor the wisdom to rule. Yet he appears at every council meeting. He addresses public gatherings, he visits the outer colonies, while you... Vex gestured to the darkened room, the unwashed robes. The untouched food. Before Azeron could respond, a soft chime echoed through the chamber, a communication alert. Vex moved to answer it, pressing his palm against the wall panel that immediately illuminated. "This is Advisor Vex." "Sir," came the nervous voice of a palace guard, "we've received a strange transmission. It claims to be from..." The guard hesitated. "From Princess Lyria." Vex's 4 eyes widened, but he kept his voice steady. "Another hoax. We've had 5 this cycle already." "Delete it." "Sir, this one came through on her personal frequency, and it contains verification codes that match royal protocols." Vex's hand hovered over the panel. Such codes were nearly impossible to fake. Still, he glanced back at the king, who stood frozen, the crystal communication device clutched so tightly in his hand that cracks had begun to form along its surface. "Send it to my private channel," Vex said finally. "I will review it first." "There's more, sir," the guard added. "The transmission originates coming from just outside our atmosphere. A small ship requesting landing clearance. They claim to have the princes on board." At this, King Azeron moved with a speed that belied his deteriorated state, crossing the room in 3 long strides. "Put it through, now." Vex opened his mouth to object, to warn the king about false hope, but the look in Azeron's eyes stopped him. Instead, he pressed another sequence on the panel, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the room. The image flickered once, twice before stabilizing to show a face that made both Xenorians gasp. It was Lyria, unmistakably so, with her mother's delicate features and her father's proud bearing. But something was different. Her normally purple skin now contained patches of a strange, pinkish substance, and her eyes, one was still the royal gold, but the other was a color neither Xenorian had seen before on one of their kind of deep brown. "Father," the image said, her voice exactly as they remembered it. "I'm alive, I'm coming home. But I'm not alone, and I'm not ... exactly as you remember me." The image shifted slightly, revealing a second figure beside her. It was a creature neither Vex nor the king had seen except in data files shorter than a Xenorian, with no luminescence to its skin, which was entirely the strange pink color that now patched Lyria's face. It had only 2 eyes, a flat nose, and far too much hair on its head, a human. "This is Ethan," Lyria continued. "He saved my life, and in a way, he became part of it." She reached out with a hand that was half purple crystal, half pink flesh, and the human took it in his own. "We request permission to land. There's so much to explain." The transmission ended, leaving the king and his advisor staring at the empty space where the impossible image had been. "It could still be a trick," Vex said softly. "A very sophisticated one." But King Azeron was already moving toward the door, his back straight, his crown of crystals beginning to glow faintly for the first time in a full cycle. "Summon the royal guard," he commanded, his voice stronger than it had been in months. "Clear the landing pad." And Vex, he paused at the threshold, something like hope flickering across his face. "Prepare the palace for the return of my daughter." The remembrance ceremony changed into something no one expected. The great hall of the palace, decorated with glowing blue crystals for mourning, now buzzed with nervous energy. Nobles and officials whispered to each other, their skin colors shifting with their emotions. Some showed doubtful yellows, others angry reds. None believed the rumors that Princess Lyria lived. King Azeron sat on his crystal throne, back straight and eyes alert for the first time in 3 years. Beside him, the smaller throne meant for his daughter remained empty, covered in the traditional black veil of remembrance. "Your Majesty," Vex said quietly, "the ship has entered our atmosphere. Our scans detect only 2 life forms aboard. And?" the king asked, his voice tense. "One reads as Xenorian, but with ... anomalies. The other is definitely not of our kind." "Prince." Zenith approached the throne, his dark blue skin gleaming with health and ambition. Taller than most Xenorians and with sharper crystal formations crowning his head, he had spent the last 3 years building support among the nobles. "Uncle," he said with a bow that showed just enough respect to avoid insult, "surely you don't believe this charade? We all loved Lyria, but this is clearly a trick. Perhaps a human plot to infiltrate our world." "We shall see," the king replied, not looking at his nephew. A guard rushed into the hall. "The ship has landed, Your Majesty," Zenith frowned. "You actually gave landing clearance without proper verification?" "I verified what matters most," the king said, rising from his throne. "A father knows his daughter's voice." The assembled court followed King Azeron through the palace corridors to the private landing pad. The ship that waited there surprised everyone. It was small, boxy, and primitive by Xenorian standards. The Earth logo painted on its side had partly burned away during atmospheric entry. A hush fell over the crowd as the ship's door opened with a hiss. Princess Lyria emerged first, and gasps echoed around the landing pad. She was unmistakably Lyria, the same graceful bearing, the same determined set to her jaw. But where her skin had once been uniformly purple crystal, now patches of pink flesh covered nearly half her body. Her right arm appeared entirely human, and the right side of her face bore the same strange transformation. One gold eye, one brown. Her crystal crown formations remained, but they had somehow merged with human hair on one side. The crowd's shock doubled when a human male stepped out behind her. He stood a head shorter than the princess, with light brown hair and a face that showed both awe and determination. He wore what appeared to be a modified Earth spacesuit with the name Miller printed across the chest. King Azeron moved forward. Slowly, as if in a trance. "Lyria?" he whispered. The princess smiled, half Zenorian lips, half human, and nodded. "Yes, father." "It's me." The king rushed forward then, gathering his daughter into his arms. The court watched in stunned silence as their monarch, so distant and cold for years, wept openly. "How?" he asked, pulling back to look at her changed face. "We found the wreckage." "There were no survivors?" "I escaped in a pod," Lyria explained. "But my systems failed and I drifted for weeks, badly injured and in stasis. By the time an Earth science vessel found me, I was dying." The human stepped forward. "Your Majesty," he said with a respectful bow. "I'm Ethan Miller. I was an engineer on the research ship that discovered Princess Lyria's escape pod." Prince Zenith pushed through the crowd. "Guards, seize the human!" King Azeron raised his hand. "Wait, uncle, this creature has clearly done something to Lyria," Zenith said, pointing at the princess's transformed body. "This could be an invasion tactic." "Let them explain," the king commanded. Lyria nodded gratefully. "My Zenorian physiology was failing. Your human medical technology couldn't save me," she said, looking at the crowd. "But Ethan found another way. Biofusion," Ethan said. "It was experimental, meant for human organ replacement using synthetic materials. I modified it to use my own genetic material to stabilize the princess." A wave of horror passed through the Zenorian crowd. Their skin colors shifted to shades of disgust and fear. "You merged your DNA with royal blood?" Zenith asked, his voice rising. With outrage, "This is sacrilege." "It was survival," Lyria countered firmly, "and it worked. But it did more than just save my life." She looked at Ethan with an expression the Zenorians couldn't read. "The fusion created a connection. We share thoughts sometimes, memories, knowledge." Vex stepped forward, his scientific curiosity overcoming his shock. "Impossible. Our species are too different." "See for yourself," Lyria said. She lifted her human-looking hand, and to everyone's astonishment it began to glow with the same bioluminescence as her Zenorian half-something human flesh should not be capable of. At the same moment, Ethan's eyes flashed with golden light, briefly matching Lyria's Zenorian eye. The crowd backed away in fear. Guards reached for their weapons. Abomination. Someone shouted from the back. King Azeron raised his hands for silence. "My daughter lives. That is what matters today." But even as he spoke, he looked at her changed form with uncertainty in his eyes. "Father," Lyria said softly, "I know this is difficult to accept. But this change has brought gifts you cannot imagine. Ethan's human perspective combined with my Zenorian knowledge, we've made discoveries that could advance our civilization by centuries. Or contaminate it forever," Prince Zenith said loudly. "Your Majesty, royal law is clear. Any monarch or heir physically compromised cannot rule. For the safety of our people, the princes must be quarantined and examined." The king hesitated, torn between joy at his daughter's return and the ancient laws of his people. "Your Majesty," Ethan said, stepping forward despite the guard's warning. Gestures. "I came here knowing I might not be welcome." But Lyria needed to return home. "All I ask is that you give us a chance to explain everything before you judge." "You dare address the king directly?" Zenith snarled. "The human speaks out." "Of turn," Vex agreed. But his request is reasonable. The princess deserves to be heard. King Azeron looked at his daughter, the child he had mourned for 3 years, now returned but forever changed. Then he looked at the human who had saved her through means no Xenorian would have considered possible or acceptable. Take the human to the secure diplomatic quarters, he finally ordered. He will be treated as an honored guest, but guarded for his own protection. Lyria. He paused, struggling with protocol. My daughter will return to her chambers. Court physicians will examine you both separately. Father, Lyria began to protest. This is not rejection, the king assured her, but things must be done properly. The law requires it. As guards moved to separate them, Ethan reached out and briefly touched Lyria's hand. Something passed between them, a look, a feeling that made the Xenorians nearby shift uncomfortably. Remember what we discussed? Ethan said quietly. Things will get worse before they get better. Lyria nodded as she allowed herself to be led toward the palace. Stay strong, she replied. They'll try to intimidate you. Prince Zenith watched the exchange with narrowed eyes, then turned to one of his personal guards. I want everything about this human. What he is, why he's really here, and most importantly, how to undo what he's done to my cousin. As Ethan was led away in the opposite direction, he glanced back once at the royal landing pad. In the confusion, no one had thought to secure the Earth shuttle. No one except Prince Zenith, who was now directing his personal guards to surround it. Ethan smiled slightly. Some plans required sacrifice to succeed, and the real answers weren't in the shuttle. Anyway, Ethan sat on the edge of a crystal bed that hummed softly beneath him. The diplomatic quarters were comfortable but strange. Everything glowed with its own light. The walls shifted colors depending on where he looked. There were no corners in the room, just smooth curves that made the space feel like the inside of a giant soap bubble. Guards stood outside his door. They called it protection, but Ethan knew a prison when he saw one. The door slid open, and Royal Advisor Vex entered with 2 assistants carrying scanning equipment. Mr. Miller, Vex said with a small bow. I hope your quarters are adequate. They're fine, Ethan replied. How is Lyria? Vex's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. The princess is undergoing examination. I am here to do the same for you, Ethan nodded. I figured. Let's get it over with. The assistants set up their equipment, while Vex studied Ethan openly. You must understand our caution. No human has ever set foot on Xantheria before, and no Xenorian has ever been part human before, Ethan said. I get it. How did you accomplish this fusion? Vex asked. Our scientists believed our species were too different to allow such integration, Ethan smiled. That's the thing about humans. We don't always listen when people tell us something's impossible. The scanning began. Beams of colored light passed through Ethan's body while the assistants murmured to each other in the clicking Xenorian language. Tell me what happened, Vex said. From the beginning. Ethan closed his eyes, remembering. I was an engineer on the science vessel Horizon. We were studying the asteroid field where Lyria's ship was destroyed, looking for new elements. Instead, we found her escape pod, and she was alive? Barely. Her pod's life support was failing. When we brought her aboard, your crystal technology was incompatible with our medical equipment. She was dying. One of the assistants gasped at something. On their scanner. Vex looked at the readings and his skin paled. Continue, Vex said, his voice tighter. I'd been working on a biofusion project. A way to integrate synthetic materials with human tissue for medical purposes. I told the captain I could modify it to save Lyria. And your captain agreed to this untested procedure? Ethan looked away. Not exactly. She ordered me to stand down. Sighed, we should put Lyria back in her pod and send a message to Xantheria. But that would have taken weeks, Vex realized. She would have died. Exactly, so Ethan paused. I broke into the medical bay that night, used my prototype. It wasn't designed for cross-species application, but I modified it, used my own cells as a bridge. The assistants were now openly staring at Ethan. One whispered something to Vex. who nodded gravely. You risked your career, your freedom. Why? Vex asked. Ethan met his gaze. Because it was the right thing to do. Vex studied him silently, then dismissed the assistants. When they were alone, he spoke more quietly. There is more to this story, I think. Ethan nodded slowly. The fusion had unexpected results. When Lyria woke up, she could access my memories. I could access hers. We shared ... something, a connection. Like our royal bond pairs of legend, Vex murmured. I don't know what that is, Ethan said. But I know that together we've discovered things neither of us could have alone. My human creativity with her Xenorian knowledge, he leaned forward. That's why we came back. To show your people what's possible when our species work together. Noble goal, said a new voice from the doorway. Or a convenient story. Prince Zenith entered, his crystal crown formation sharp and glinting in the room's light. 2 personal guards flanked him. Vex stood quickly. Prince Zenith, these interviews are private by the king's order. I am acting with my uncle's authority. Zenith said smoothly. He is ... indisposed again. The shock of seeing his daughter so changed has affected him deeply. Ethan stood, measuring the prince with his eyes. You don't believe Lyria is who she says she is? I believe my cousin died 3 years ago, Zenith said. What returned is something else. Something tainted by human contamination. He walked closer to Ethan. Tell me, did you plan this invasion from the beginning, or was it an opportunity that arose? Invasion? Ethan laughed. I'm one guy, not exactly a conquering army. Yet you've already infiltrated our royal family, Zenith countered. Our examination of your shuttle revealed interesting modifications. Technology beyond what Earth should possess. Ethan kept his expression neutral. Lyria helped improve our systems for the journey. Did she? Zenith smiled coldly. We also found communications equipment capable of reaching Earth instantly. Technology we've never shared with humans. Your Highness, Vex interrupted, these accusations should be presented to the king formally. They will be, Zenith assured him, along with the results of the princess's examination. Her body is now 38% human tissue, including parts of her brain. He turned back to Ethan. Which makes me wonder who is really in control. A commotion outside interrupted them. The door slid open and Lyria burst in, followed by flustered guards. Princess, you cannot, one began. Leave us, she commanded, and something in her voice made them obey instantly. Ethan felt a wave of relief seeing her. Through their connection, he sensed her anger and determination. Cousin, she said to Zenith, I see you're already making yourself at home in my father's authority. Lyria, Zenith greeted her with false warmth. The examinations were meant to be conducted separately. They're done, she said firmly, and I've spoken with father. He's calling the High Council to session. All of us will attend. She looked at Ethan. Are you all right? I'm fine, he assured her. Your cousin was just sharing his invasion theory. Lyria's eyes narrowed. Zenith has always had an active imagination, especially when it comes to scenarios where he becomes king. Zenith's skin darkened with anger. You abandoned your claim when you let this human change you into whatever you are now. I'm still me, Lyria said. With new perspective, new abilities. You'll have a chance to demonstrate these abilities to the council, Zenith said. And, explain why you hid from us for 3 years. I wasn't hiding, Lyria countered. I was learning, recovering, understanding what happened to me. Vex stepped between them. The council meeting will begin soon. We should prepare. Zenith bowed mockingly and left. Vex followed after giving Ethan and Lyria a concerned look. When they were alone, Ethan moved closer to Lyria. Your father? Is he really okay? Lyria shook her head. He's struggling. Zenith has been poisoning the court against us while I was being examined. She took Ethan's hands in hers. They found the data cores. Of course they did, Ethan said. We left them to be found? And the shuttle's beacon? Active just as we planned. Lyria nodded, relief evident on her face. Commander Bailey will be monitoring then. She wait for our signal, Ethan confirmed. But Lyria, your cousin is dangerous. He suspects something. Zenith has always been paranoid, Lyria said. But he doesn't know what we discovered in the asteroid field. What really happened to my ship 3 years ago? Ethan squeezed her hands. Are you sure you want to reveal it all to the council? Once we do this, there's no going back. Lyria's expression hardened. My people deserve the truth about the attack. About what Zenith has been planning with the Krith. She touched the human side of her face. This change saved more than just my life, Ethan. It might save my entire world. Together, they walked toward the council chambers, guards falling in behind them. Neither noticed the small hovering device that followed, recording their every word for Prince Zenith's ears. The High Council chamber was a perfect circle with 12 crystal thrones arranged around its edge. King Azeron sat on the largest throne, looking tired but determined. Lyria stood in the center of the room with Ethan beside her. Prince Zenith sat at the king's right hand, whispering occasionally in his ear. Vex stood to address the council. We are gathered to determine the identity and intentions of Princess Lyria and her human companion. High Priestess Zara rose from her throne. Her skin was the deepest purple, almost black, and her crystal crown formations reached higher than anyone else's. Before we begin, the princes must undergo the trial of identity. Our laws demand it, Lyria stepped forward. I accept the trial. Ethan grabbed her arm. Lyria, you didn't mention this. What is it? A pain that proves who I am, she answered quietly. King Azeron looked concerned. The trial was designed for pure Xenorians. With your human elements, it could be dangerous. I am still your daughter. Lyria said firmly, I will prove it. High Priestess Zara approached with a crystal orb that pulsed with red light. This will respond only to royal blood. It will cause pain to verify your genetic memory. If you are truly Princess Lyria, you will see visions of your ancestral line and survive. If not, she left the sentence unfinished. Prince Zenith smiled slightly. The orb will reject human tissue. This should be interesting. Ethan moved closer. To Lyria, you don't have to do this. I do, she insisted. Trust me, Zara held out the orb. Lyria took a deep breath and placed both hands on it, her Xenorian hand and her human hand. Immediately she cried out in pain. Red light from the orb raced up her arms, covering her body in glowing veins. She fell to her knees but kept her hands on the orb. Ethan stumbled back, clutching his head. He felt Lyria's pain through their connection, searing through his own mind. The council members gasped as Ethan's eyes began to glow with the same red light affecting Lyria. What trickery is this? Zenith demanded. No trick, Vex said, watching closely. Their connection is stronger. Then we realized. Lyria's voice came out strained. I see them. My ancestors. The first kings and queens of Xanthuria. The founding of our world. Tears ran down her face, sizzling as they hit the orb. Father, I see Mother. She's beautiful. King Azeron stood, his face showing a mixture of hope and fear. What does she say to you, my daughter? Lyria looked up, her eyes now completely gold, both her Xenorian eye and her human one. She says, forgive yourself. The attack wasn't your fault. Attack? Zara questioned. Your ship was destroyed by asteroids. No, Lyria gasped, still holding the orb. It was ambushed by Krith warships. A shock ran through the council. The Krith were longtime enemies of the Xenorians, a savage warrior race from a neighboring system. The Krith haven't violated our borders in generations, one council member objected. They did 3 years ago, Lyria said. Her voice grew stronger. They destroyed my ship. They tried to kill me to prevent an alliance with humans. She looked directly at Zenith. And they had help from within our court. Prince Zenith stood abruptly. This is absurd. She fails the trial and now invents wild accusations. She hasn't failed, High Priestess Zara said, sounding surprised. The orb accepts her. She is Princess Lyria. Impossible. Zenith shouted. Look at her. She's part human. And yet the orb recognizes her royal blood, Zara replied. She looked at Ethan with new interest. And somehow it recognizes him too. Ethan was on his knees now, sharing Lyria's pain. Through their mental link, He could see what she saw: generations of crystal kings and queens, the history of Xanthoria playing out like a movie in his mind. "There's more," Lyria said, still connected to the orb. "Show them, Ethan. Show them what we found." Fighting through the pain, Ethan reached into his pocket and removed a small data crystal. "When Earth found Lyria's escape pod, we also recovered this from her ship's black box." Vex took the crystal and inserted it into a panel on the wall. A holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber, showing the attack on Lyria's ship. Krith warbirds decloaking and opening fire without warning, the ship breaking apart. And most damning of all, a communication from one of the Krith commanders. "The royal heir is eliminated, Prince Zenith," the alien voice growled. "Our deal stands. When you take the throne, our alliance will change the balance of power in this sector." The council erupted in outrage. Guards moved toward Zenith, who backed away, his skin turning pale with fear. "Lies!" he shouted. "This is a human fabrication." King Azeron rose from his throne, his face a mask of fury. "Guards, seize my nephew!" Zenith pulled out a hidden weapon and fired at Lyria. Ethan, still connected to her mind, sensed the attack coming. He threw himself in front of her, taking the blast in his shoulder. He fell to the ground, clutching his wound. Chaos erupted in the council chamber. Guards rushed Zenith, who fought back with surprising skill. He reached into his robes and threw down a small device that exploded with blinding light. When everyone could see again, Zenith was gone. Lyria finally released the orb and crawled to Ethan's side. "Ethan, hold on!" She pressed her hands to his wound, her fingers glowing with blue light. "I'm okay," he grunted. "Just a flesh wound." "We need to alert the palace defenses," Vex said urgently to the king. "Zenith will try to escape." King Azeron nodded, still stunned by his nephew's betrayal. He moved to Lyria's side and knelt beside her and Ethan. "You saved my daughter," he said to Ethan. "And now you've saved her again, at risk to your own life." "Your Majesty," Ethan said weakly, "there's more you need to know. The Krith are planning an attack on Xanthoria. That's why we came back now." "How do you know this?" Zara asked. Lyria looked up, her hands still healing Ethan's wound. "After I recovered on Earth, we intercepted Krith communications. They've been waiting for Zenith to take the throne. With my father in mourning and withdrawing from rule, it was only a matter of time." A guard burst into the chamber. "Your Majesty, we're detecting multiple ships entering our atmosphere." "Krith warbirds. It's happening," Ethan said grimly. "Zenith must have signaled them when he realized we had evidence against him." King Azeron stood tall, suddenly every inch the ruler he had once been. "Sound the planetary alert. Deploy our defense fleet?" "There's another option," Lyria said, helping Ethan to his feet. "Earth ships are waiting just outside our system. Commander Bailey of the Earth Defense Force, I sent her a signal when we arrived." The king looked shocked. "You brought human warships to Xanthoria without permission?" "For protection," Ethan explained, "not invasion. They won't enter your space without your approval." King Azeron studied his daughter and the human beside her. His daughter, who was now part human herself, who had suffered and changed and returned with warnings and allies. "How many ships?" he asked finally. "5," Lyria answered. "Small but advanced. Enough to surprise the Krith, who don't expect humans to be here." Another guard entered. "Your Majesty, Prince Zenith has reached the royal hangar. He's stealing a ship." The king made his decision. "Contact the Earth vessels. Tell them they have permission to enter Xanthorian space and engage the Krith ships." He turned to his daughter. "And then, Lyria, I think it's time we showed the universe what happens when Xenorians and humans work together." For the first time since returning home, Lyria smiled, fully her expression the same on both her Xenorian and human features. "Yes, father. I think it is." Red alert signals flashed throughout the Crystal Palace. The Royal Defense Center buzzed with activity as King Azeron, Lyria, and Ethan entered. A large holographic display showed 7 Krith warbirds entering Xanthorian atmosphere. "Your Majesty," a defense officer reported, "our ships are launching, but the Krith have a head start. They're targeting the capital city." Where is Zenith? The king demanded. His ship is approaching the lead Krith vessel, another officer said. They appear to be docking. Ethan stepped forward, studying the display. His shoulder was bandaged where Zenith had shot him. The Krith ships are in standard attack formation. Predictable, Lyria nodded. Father, may I send the signal to Commander Bailey? The king hesitated only briefly. Do it, Lyria pressed her Zenorian hand to a crystal panel. The human side of her face glowed faintly as she closed her eyes, concentrating. The Earth ships are responding. They'll arrive in moments, Ethan smiled. Lily's always punctual. True to his word, 5 Earth vessels appeared on the display, dropping out of what the Zenorians called fold space and humans called hyperlight. They were smaller than the Zenorian ships, but moved with incredible speed and precision. Unusual design, Vex noted, entering the defense center. They're not like any Earth ships in our database. That's because they've been upgraded, Ethan explained. With Lyria's help, Earth engineers incorporated Zenorian crystal technology into our ships. Without authorization? King Azeron asked sharply. To save both our worlds, Lyria countered. The Krith have threatened Earth too. They fear what our alliance could create. The king looked at his daughter with new understanding, like you. Before Lyria could respond, Commander Grace Bailey's face appeared on the main display. She was a stern-looking human woman with short gray hair and determined eyes. King Azeron of Zamthuria, she greeted formally. Earth Defense Force stands ready to assist. We welcome your aid, Commander, the king replied. Princess Lyria, Ethan, Bailey nodded to them. Your intel was correct. The Krith fleet is exactly where you predicted. Commander, Ethan said, stepping closer to the display, remember the weakness we discussed. Their shield generators are vulnerable to targeted pulse bursts. Already programmed into our weapons, Bailey confirmed. But we'll need the Zenorian ships to coordinate with us. King Azeron turned to his defense chief. Share our tactical frequencies with the Earth vessels. The battle began in earnest. The Krith ships, caught by surprise at the Earth vessel's appearance, broke formation. Their superior numbers should have given them an advantage, but the Earth ships moved with unexpected agility, darting between the larger Krith warbirds. They're so fast, Vex marveled. Human design principles, Ethan explained. Smaller, more maneuverable, combined with Zenorian crystal power cores. Lyria suddenly gasped, clutching her head. Ethan, I can sense him. Zenith? Ethan asked, feeling her distress through their connection. She nodded. He's broadcasting somehow, to our ships. Some of our captains are standing down. King Azeron slammed his fist on the control panel. He's using the royal override codes. Only the royal family has them. I have them too, Lyria said. She placed both her hands on the crystal console. And my human side might help. The Zenorian captains know me, but they won't expect a transmission like this. Ethan placed his hand over hers. We'll do it together. Our connection amplifies your abilities. Their hands glowed where they touched. On the display, Lyria's face appeared before all Zenorian ship captains. This is Princess Lyria. Prince Zenith is a traitor who conspired with the Krith to destroy my ship 3 years ago. Ignore his commands. Protect our home. The Zenorian ships resumed their attack. On the main display, they could see the combined Earth and Zenorian forces pushing back the Krith invaders. It's working, Vex exclaimed. A new alert sounded. An officer looked up in alarm. Your Majesty, Prince Zenith's ship has broken away from the Krith fleet. He's heading directly for the palace with weapons charged. Evacuate the building, King Azeron ordered. No time, Ethan said grimly. He'll be here in seconds. Lyria's eyes widened. The Crystal Heart. Father, he's going for the Planetary Defense Corps. Understanding dawned on the king's face. If he destroys it, all of Xandaria's defenses will fail, Lyria finished. The Krith will win. Ethan looked at the display showing Zenith's approach. We need to redirect the palace shields to protect the Crystal Heart chamber. Impossible, Defense officer said. The controls are in the chamber itself. Lyria and Ethan exchanged a look. Through their connection, they shared the same thought. We can do it, Lyria said. Together. They ran from the defense center, ignoring the king's calls to stop. They raced through the crystal corridors, their feet echoing on the polished floors. The palace shook as Zenith's ship began firing on the outer shields. They reached the crystal heart chamber, a vast room dominated by a massive pulsing crystal suspended in an energy field. The heart glowed with all the colors of Zenorian skin, shifting and flowing like a living rainbow. The shield controls, Ethan said, spotting a console near the heart dot as they rushed toward it. The ceiling exploded inward. Zenith's ship had broken through the outer palace defenses. The prince himself dropped through the hole, landing with surprising grace. His eyes were wild, his skin a mottled red of rage and fear. Too late, cousin, he snarled. The Krith will destroy this world and rebuild it without the weakness your father has shown. This isn't about strength or weakness, Lyria said, stepping forward. It's about evolution, change, something you've always feared. Zenith drew his weapon. I fear nothing, especially not a half-human abomination. He fired, but something unexpected happened. Lyria raised her human hand, and the energy blast stopped in midair. It hovered between them, crackling with power. Impossible, Zenith whispered. Not impossible, Ethan said, moving to Lyria's side. His eyes glowed with the same light as hers. Just different, but biofusion didn't just save her life. It created something new. Together, they pushed the energy blast back toward Zenith. He dove aside, but not fast enough. The blast hit his leg, sending him sprawling across the floor. Dot above them, the battle continued. Through the hole in the ceiling, they could see Krith ships beginning to retreat as the combined Earth and Zenorian fleet gained the upper hand. King Azeron entered the chamber with guards close behind. They seized the injured Zenith, who no longer fought but glared at Lyria with hatred. You've ruined everything, he spat. No, the king said, looking at his daughter and the human beside her. She has shown us the future. Later, as the sun set over Crystalis, Lyria and Ethan stood on the palace balcony overlooking the city. Repair crews worked on the damaged sections of the palace while citizens gathered below, curious about the Earth ships now docked peacefully in Zenorian hangars. King Azeron joined them, looking tired but at peace. Commander Bailey tells me Earth is interested in a formal alliance. They are? Lyria confirmed. And many on the council seem supportive now. After seeing what your ships can do when enhanced with our technology, I understand why, the king sighed. He turned to Ethan. My daughter tells me you wish to stay on Xanthuria for a time. Ethan nodded. If that's acceptable, your majesty. There's still much we could learn from each other. The king studied the human who had saved his daughter and helped save his world. The high priestess has been researching our oldest texts. She found references to ancient Zenorians who could bond with other species. It was considered a gift, not a contamination. He placed his hand on Ethan's shoulder. Perhaps we've forgotten too much of our past in our quest to remain pure. Father, Lyria said hesitantly, my appearance will take some getting used to, the king admitted. But it is not the outside that matters. You are still my daughter. And now, perhaps something more? He looked between them. The council has voted to create a new position. Ambassador to Earth. I can think of no one better suited. Below them, the citizens of Crystalis had begun a spontaneous celebration. Earth crew members mingled with Zenorians, sharing stories and comparing experiences. New connections forming. It won't be easy, Ethan said. Change never is. But necessary, Lyria replied. She took Ethan's hand in hers, crystal fingers intertwined with human ones. The best things never come easily. As night fell, the 3 moons of Xanthuria rose in the sky, their light reflecting off the crystal spires of the city. In the palace throne room, the smaller throne beside the king's no longer bore a black veil. Instead, it glowed with a new light, part Zenorian blue, part human gold, a perfect reflection of the princes who would one day sit upon it and the future she represented.